Hi, my name is Lee Darty, and I'll be talking today about some IT. The federal government was nice enough to give us about $3.5 million out of a $25 million project to see if we could take some IT and some collaborative learning and perhaps introduce some people that otherwise might not be able to get into healthcare careers. So we call it the ultimate flip because we use collaboration, first of all, and second of all, we use that technology along with the collaboration we'll go through today. So as part of we go, we had a challenge. The challenge that the federal government, whenever you write a grant, you send it in, and if they like you, they give you money. If they don't like you, they don't get you money. But you have to set your proposition up first. By the way, I understand I had a boss many years ago that told me that as soon as I open my mouth and they hear you have a southern accent, your perceived IQ goes down by about 30 points. So I'm okay with that, just to understand that I'm going to overwhelm you because I'm at least average. At least that's what my mother says, so I'm going to be all right with that. So the challenge is we have to build a better nurse assistant. With the new healthcare we have now, they're pushing a lot of the skills down from the RN level down to nurse assisting. Nurse assisting is the high touch function of nursing that you have. You will see people come into your room when you're in the hospital. Most of the people that you'll see who come into your room will be nurse assistants. That's the high touch. The nurses have a lot of patients. Nurse assistants has the less density of patients, but the higher level of touch. So how do we get more nurse assistants into the work stream? Part of the grant that we have gives us money to challenge us to say, how do we get people from other occupations or occupations that got displaced or jobs might have moved overseas, how do we move into healthcare quicker? So one of the things you know about nursing is very hard to get into. So someone a long time ago told me that it had a big sign. I went up to a repair place and it said, you can have it done three ways. You can have it done cheap, you can have anything you want done fast, or you can have it done right. And then underneath that, it said, choose any two. Now, my parents have spent a lot of money on my education. I have graduate degrees and all this stuff, and I've never been able to break this as being one of the most perfect statements ever made in economy. You can have it done cheap, you can have it done fast, or you can have it done right. So, since I can't break that proposition, I've got to choose which one's going to be for my program. So if you Google from my hometown, Florence-Darlington Tech, it's in Florence, South Carolina, right off I-95. If you're ever going to Florida, you'll drive right through it if you're traveling on I-95. You Google in my hometown, nurse assistants, classes, or nurse assisting schools, you see it returns back 6,100 results. And that is for nurse assistant classes in Florence, South Carolina. All right, now you take a breath. Well, why do you need another nurse assisting class if you have it done that way? One of the things that we like to look at is we say, hey, we'll just choose one of these and we'll show you what one of them looks like. What's interesting about this is that you'll see that this one, which is the top result that's not sponsored, meaning somebody didn't pay Google for that, you'll see that you can actually have it done in 7 weeks. 7 weeks. The nurse that's going to help you or your mother or your grandmother is going to be trained in 7 weeks. That's a problem in the industry. That's a problem, in fact, that they're really nervous about these strip mall stores and these for-profit places building nurse assistants in 7 weeks. So we chose the other two. We chose that we wanted to do it cheap and we wanted to do it right because obviously fast was already taken. That might be a little too fast though. So there's a great quote that I use a lot with my staff. They always get in a hurry and they always want things done a little bit faster than I want to be able to handle them. Of course, I remind them that we're not fast. But this is a great quote that I use a lot and they get a big kick out of it. You can't produce a baby in a month by getting 9 women pregnant. So there's some things that just take time. Now, the other people that did it in 7 weeks, they may argue otherwise and say they produce a great. So 7 weeks and 5 clinical days, they're going to make a nurse assistant and they're going to turn them along with patients. I'm not sure about that. Okay, so I'm not here to disparage them. I'm here to tell you how we're doing a little bit different. Okay, so if better was our goal, how does that better look like? Well, Stephen Covey tells us we begin with the end in mind. So we went and talked to our employers when we were writing the grant. We said, what do you want? What are you looking for in a better nurse assistant? And they told us that they wanted a near zero learning curve, meaning the first day they got there, they wanted to be able to put them to work. They don't have to worry about them. You understand that this business is run by lawsuits and run by insurance companies, and you got to do it right every time. This is for real. You know, people say it's not a matter of life and death. Why are you freaking out about it? Well, nursing is about life or death, and it has to be right. Near zero learning curve is pretty tough, though, right? Trainable. Nursing, healthcare in general, like law is one of those professions that we all joke about and say, well, you know, you practice law, you practice medicine, you practice. Remember 200 years ago, the best medicine of the time was if you got sick, we would drain all the bad blood out of you and you'd feel better. And you'd go home and we'd charge you for that. That was crazy, right? 200 years ago. There's buildings around here on a couple blocks away from here, they're much older than 200 years ago, and that was the prevailing thought. So obviously trainability. You have to be able to train if you're going to be in that industry. Patient safety, big deal. Keeps the lawyers off your back, keeps everyone healthy and happy. When you leave a hospital nowadays, within 30 days after you leave the hospital, you will get a survey from the hospital or from the insurance company or from the federal government, depending on how you paid for it, and they'll ask you how your stay was. And based on how you rate that stay, indicates how much the hospital gets paid for your stay. And if you come back within 30 days, they can deny the first claim to the hospital altogether for payment. So they want you to be safe when you're there and get it right the first time as well. And they want excellent soft skills. A lot of soft skills are lost. You don't have time in 7 weeks to teach soft skills and all the skills required to be a nurse assistant. So soft skills are something our employers really wanted from us. And the last, the ability to work independent. To be able to work independent the first day, be trainable and go into that career. Not going to be able to read all the words on this slide, just to understand this is the path that we built. The first two green boxes over there are our nurse assistant. It takes 2 semesters to get nurse assisting from us. Not 7 weeks, but 2 semesters to get it done from us. It's a long time, but how do we do it cheaper? Also, we have other stackable, you know about stackable certificates that go on the back of that if you want to stay around, phlebotomy and some of the other things. Don't worry about the nursing piece. Let's talk about the collaborative piece. So let's talk about the soft skills. How are we going to get the better soft skills? So we do careers in healthcare class, great class. We do a reading course. Our program has no prerequisites. It's a nursing program with no prerequisites. Come right off the street, come into our program. So we cannot assume that you are a great reader for content when you come to our program, but we're gonna help you with that. We're gonna make you a great content reader because you're gonna have to do a lot of medical terminology. And medical terminology is its own world. We have jargon in our worlds. Medical terms have their own set of jargon. The ability to work independently, it's a big deal. Computer applications, computer drives everything. Computer keeps you from getting the wrong medicine, and it allows you to bill for things that you actually do. Both things are very important to their employers as well. Computers in healthcare, how do you code what you just did? How do you code that with that action that you did? Trainability and patient safety. We're going to do medical ethics and law. We're going to put you through a curriculum-based medical ethics so you understand what's ethical and what's not. What does HIPAA mean? Why is that important to you? Why should you even care about that? And then the big one, anatomy and physiology. Anatomy and physiology is not required of nurse assisting. We put our people through anatomy and physiology because we want them to understand a little bit more than what they're there for, because we have higher aspirations for them when they get there. But it also relates to patient safety. Know why things are feeling the way they're feeling. And of course, computers in healthcare, again, because that patient safety. Are you getting the right medicine? Are you doing the right procedure for someone? All right, a little bit about our students. 2-year colleges. Anybody here from 2-year college? 2-year college? Okay, great. So you'll know exactly. So be my amen chorus on this. 2-year colleges are a little different than all the other animals out there. 90% of the students at a 2-year college are receiving some sort of financial aid to be there. Okay, that means they're on food stamps, which the federal government calls SNAP now, or they have dependents, they're whatever the reasons be. 90%. 75% of the students there represent the first person in their family that's ever attended or graduated from college. It's a different. 75% of our students are non-traditional. There's a definition of non-traditional. How non-traditional, you ask? Last fall, we had a student that gave birth to her 10th child during the semester. Missed 2 days of class, came back, she just graduated, she's a nurse now. 10th child during the semester, missed 2 days. So when you're feeling bad or you have a cold or something, you can't go to work, just think about her. And of course, this is displaced worker. That long acronym over there is what the government calls when someone from a foreign country, your job gets moved to a foreign country. And that's where our grant was based out of, TAC. So don't worry about the big acronym associated with that. 68% of the students at two-year colleges, not just ours, but all around, have to take a developmental course before they can even be entered into the college. That's math, that's reading, or something of that nature. So that's the students that we're talking to. What's the big gatekeeper course? Most of the gatekeeper courses is associated with healthcare is anatomy and physiology. How much of a gatekeeper course is it? Well, 35% of the students that take anatomy and physiology for the first time, which is our Bio 110, pass. 65% fail. Now, how are we going to do this in 2 semesters if we know that a third of the people in the whole college that have ever taken that aren't going to pass the first time? Now you're into the 3rd semester and the 4th semester. Federal government said, we're not giving you $3.5 million to do it the same way you always did. So that takes us to where we are. So we know that's a gatekeeper. We know anatomy and physiology is a big deal. So how do we train that a little bit different? So who knows what this is, right? So this was our first experience. If you're a man of a certain age like myself, or you certainly saw it maybe when it came out on DVD, this is Star Wars, and this was Princess Leia, and she was in a holograph, right? She was, and everybody's sitting around watching this great demonstration of hologram. This is holography versus 3D. If we go see a 3D movie, we're all going to put on glasses, we're all going to sit in different places in the theater, and we're going to see the same movie. We're going to see the same movie. With holography, you're not. You can get up and walk around something that's a hologram. And that's the technology that we use to help train anatomy and physiology. It's a technology that allows students to collaborate with each other and allows them to look into spaces they otherwise could have never looked before. This technology is from a company called zSpace, and the software is written by a company called Eon. And we bought a whole bunch of this stuff. And it's really great because the students, first of all, it gets them excited. If it did nothing but get them excited and make them want to study more, that would be worth it. But the fact is, they can take this technology and they can dissect a heart, a brain, a lung. They can watch neurons moving through and out the body. It's amazing the things that can be done on this. And again, it's exciting. They want to do it. But it allows them to work in small groups too. And these small groups, matching weak to strong, very, very much part of what we do. It floats above so that multiple people can experience this, and what they're doing, they can answer questions, they can actually take tests on this. So you can actually take the parts of the heart and you can touch the parts of the heart and you can answer questions from a test as you go through. It's pretty amazing stuff, it really is. Again, it's engaging that. Our students have access to this lab during times when there's no classroom. They can go and study this. They can come in and play on the machine. And the idea of play is a big deal because they don't see it as homework. They see it as something they're doing. So this is what it looks like when you have the glasses on. And when you don't have the glasses on, it looks very flat and not that exciting. So this is not one of those things you can choose whether to wear the glasses or not, because if you don't wear the glasses, then it looks like this. But if you do wear the glasses, it's floating above you. One of the great things we saw about this immediately was that students were working together. So we wanted them to work in groups in the class, but also study away from class together. It's very important. And in healthcare, you see nurses working together all the time anyway, so we thought this would be a natural occurrence that would happen. But we also asked them to do individual presentations. So here's a biology class that we asked them to do a presentation in. I don't remember if you've ever been in a biology class. I was never in a biology class where I was asked to stand up and give a presentation about anything. But they're excited about it. They're able to take this same thing, they give glasses to the class, and they can project that same image on the board, and they can walk around the image and talk about the image. It gets them excited about this biology. So it allows us to do asymmetrical learning. We can put them out there, give them an assignment, they can go and work on it by themselves in small groups and come back. So what were our results? Well, remember the first results, 35% pass in the college. Well, our results were a little bit different. We're very excited about it. 95% pass the first time. That represented one person that did not pass in each of the first 2 semesters, just one of each of the first 2 semesters. Couldn't believe it. The college went crazy. I get phone calls from all the other departments. What's going on? How's it happening? And so we tell them about it. We say, hey, this is what we're doing different. So how are we doing this? Well, we want to take 2 months to get to that perfection. You have to be perfect in medicine. You can't be close in medicine. This is not one of those things, an 85% nurse. Who wants an 85% nurse? Nobody wants an 85% nurse. So we had to go and address that. So how we do this with the learning curve. Learning curve is a big deal for us. So we wanted to make our students ready for clinicals. We wanted to have some way that they could learn from each other and get to the clinicals perfect. To be honest with you, we had done a poor job of preparing our students ready to go to clinicals, and we had lost clinical sites. Clinical sites in the nursing business are gold. And if you screw up, because you have real patients, you're a student, but you have real patients. You ever been to the bank and it has that sign out front that says, teller in training? What does that sign really say? It says, forgive me if I make a mistake. You know, that's what it means, right? I mean, they wouldn't put that sign out there if they said, we're going to be perfect, don't worry about it. It doesn't say, hi, my name's Gloria and I'm brand new. It says teller in training because she might make a mistake or he might make a mistake. We don't put nurse in training signs on front of them, but we do send student nurses into healthcare facilities. And we can't mess those people up because those are real patients. So how do we overcome that? Collaborative learning, matching weak with strong, and letting them do their skills before they go to clinicals. We want to build a better clinical nurse so that when they get to clinicals, that there's zero learning curve once they get there. And practice to mastery. That's a tough word. Practice to mastery. Not practice good enough, practice get ready for the test, practice to mastery. We pair you up with a partner and your partner says, yes, my partner has mastered this skill, now they're ready to go check that skill off, and you sign off on that. And that person doesn't get to go and test that skill unless you say they mastered it. Mastered it. It's a big deal. Perfect practice. Practice doesn't make you perfect. Perfect practice makes you perfect. So how do we do that? We do that with those teams, matching weak to strong together. Find a strong student, match them with a weak student, put them together, and their strengths will come out. Happens. We like it. So the second thing we do is very important for this mastery. How do we go and check these skills off? Well, we use this concept of high stakes, low risk simulation. The only thing in the world you can't simulate, they say, is risk. You can say, oh, well, roller coasters, that's a simulated risk. Well, no, it's not, because sometimes wheels come off a roller coaster. So that adrenaline you have when you're riding it, that's real adrenaline because it can come off the rail. It probably won't. You saw hundreds of people come off before you that didn't fall out, but you may be that one. That's real risk. So how do we introduce ourselves in a situation where we can use simulation to get us through a very high stakes situation with low risk? Well, the first time we ever saw this introduced in the industry was really in the flight training. We saw back in the 60s where the military was building these trainers and training as fast as they could. There was actually simulators back in World War II, and they were rudimentary. They were sitting in soapboxes and pulling strings and things. But now the simulators have gotten very complicated. Now the simulators are actually built by the same people that build the jets. Military says train like you fight, fight like you train. Well, we say the same thing. We took that very same philosophy and said, hey, we're going to make our simulation suites look just like a hospital room. This is one of our simulation suites. We're going to have you go and perform on these mannequins. These mannequins, we say they'll do everything but get up and walk away. That's about $250,000 for 2 mannequins. The equipment that runs behind the scenes to make the mannequins run, about another $300,000. These mannequins have blood rates, they have pulse, they breathe. You can put whatever you want into them, but their skills can be checked off in there. When you're taking the pulse of a mannequin, you can know exactly what that pulse is. So when that student goes in there to take that pulse, you can say, I want it plus or minus 5, or you don't master that skill. Well, if they're taking pulse of their classmate, I don't really know what the pulse is of the person they're taking from their classmate, but I do know what this is. So it's very objective scoring, and the students like to objectively score. We send them in there by themselves after they've practiced a mastery with their collaborative partner, and then they go in there and they actually prove that skill. Behind the scenes, you have to ignore the man behind the curtain. This, the man behind the curtain, makes it run. We have a female that also helps us, who runs the back room, but it's actually making that whole experience happen on the front end. So this person sets a scenario up, and then the student out front's actually getting graded on what they're doing. So this is practice to mastery. Then you go in a room and you prove that. You're by yourself in that room. You know, that room's high pressure as well. We've seen students get in there and they cry. They get very frustrated, get very scared. It's very real. Other than the fact the mannequin's creepy, you have to get past that. I'm telling you, I walk by in the morning times, and sometimes I still, you know, I cringe a little bit when we go by. They breathe and talk, by the way. They talk. It talks. It really talks to you. It responds. You hand a little rough, it'll tell you, oh, that hurts. You're a little rough. I'm telling you, it's a weird experience when you get there. You get immersed in it pretty quickly. But this collaborative learning is a big deal. So how do we practice to mastery? What does it look like when you're collaboratively learning? This is one of our classes. They're learning skills on each other. This is where they sign off on one another, and until they sign off on one another, they don't get to go and check off that skill in the suite with our mannequin. Here again, they're doing, see, they have smaller representations, simulation here, technology being graded. There's literally a checklist of things you have to do. There's an order in which you do everything in healthcare. And on that screen over there, her partner's checking off those skills in order as she's going through. Chest compressions, as she's doing blood pressure, whatever the skill may be, her partner's checking her off that to make sure she gets there. We have men in the program too, but I have a lot of females in this. So here's, we also have some of our better students, in particular in a class, that'll go and they will teach their other fellow students within the suite as well, or also upcoming as we were doing recruiting. We recruit 3 times a year. We take in new cohorts 3 times a year. The only nursing program I know that does that 3 times a year. So they'll come in. Sometimes we'll actually invite visitors in to watch that simulation. Now, obviously, you want to make sure you have someone accomplished that's doing that. But understand in healthcare, you may have people around you. If you've ever been in a hospital room, you know that sometimes the family's going to stay in there while you're checking out the patient. So you better be used to having people with a bunch of eyes on top of you. So we tell them, you got to train like you fight, fight like you train. We're going to put you in a high pressure situation. You're going to be acting for real. One of the things we also did is add a fishbowl to the outside as well. So on the outside, this is in a hall that goes by, and we say, hey, we want our students and other students in other disciplines to walk by and see what's going on in that classroom so that you always have a way to see what's going on in the simulation suite. We've also used this. We have observation rooms. We invite some of our employer partners to come in and observe our students in this simulation suite. That's a very, very big deal. We ask them to come in, and employer partners to come in and observe our students during this. What has that done for us? Well, we record every one of our sessions whenever our students are in the simulation suites, and we allow them, if they like, to take it home on a thumb drive. They can add that as part of a resume. They can give that to a prospective employer. So far, this has been one of the biggest attributes that we've had. It shows the score. It shows how they handle the patient. It shows those soft skills. When we talked about at the very beginning, the soft skills. They come in and they say, hello, Mr. Flynn, how are you doing today? My name's Lee, and I'm going to be your nurse today. I'm going to be doing them. Take your blood pressure, and then we're going to give you a little wash, or we're going to do whatever the skill is, and then we're going to be, is that okay? And the mannequin answers back to them. Those soft skills are very big, and to be able to show that to a prospective employer is a big deal. So what were our results? The results were that we had our clinical sites loved it. They absolutely loved it. So much so word got out, and we had other clinical sites calling us, which, by the way, you talk about a big flip. That's a big deal. They're calling us saying, hey, send your students to us next semester. We like that. The next is objective scoring, and then the flash drive's resume. So we give them as objective scores, and that's great. But they also get to go and debrief each other. And they say, hey, look at this. I see what you did wrong, do what you did right here. If they didn't get a perfect score, they can talk to their collaborative partner and say why they didn't get that. But if they did it right, they can put on their video resume and they can take it to their prospective employer. 75% of our students have continued on to other programs. They get their nurse assisting, they go out and get that job, and then they continue on to other programs because the employers, typically in healthcare, are very good about paying for your continued education. So what we tell our students is you come in for nurse assisting, for the curriculum-based nurse assisting, you go get a job and come back for your nursing, and at least your part-time job while you're in nursing school is going to be a whole lot better than it would have been otherwise. We've had 100% graduate placement from the program. That's where the rubber meets the road. From the bringing our employers in and watching the students in those suites, to showing those videos, to having them tour our campus, to involving the employers from the very beginning, and really from the hard work that the students have put into it and believing in what we're doing. Because remember, they could have got it in 7 weeks from somewhere else. They could have gone to a strip mall and got it done in 7 weeks and had the exact same accreditation that they're going to get from us. They're going to get a certificate from us, but they're also going to have the same accreditation as if they'd done it in 7 weeks. But we've got 100% placement. Our average starting wage is about 25% to 30% higher than average nurse assistant in South Carolina as well. So that's how we spent your tax dollars. Any questions you have? The mannequins are really, really creepy. When they're breathing, their chest is moving up and down. Sometimes they have trouble breathing. You don't know what the scenario is when you walk in there, but when you walk past an otherwise empty room and you see a chest heaving of someone that you know is not alive, that is an unnerving thing. Our students go in there. They put out everything. EKG, we do the whole, absolutely. They can go into cardiac arrest. You can make them do whatever you want to do. In nurse assisting, we really don't go into too many, but we let other departments use our mannequins as well. We're not using it. Part of what the government wants to do. They want to get as much candy for their nickel as they can, so we let other programs use them as well. So, oh yeah, we don't have the mannequins on site, but they have mannequins that actually give birth and everything else as well. But our mannequins, they go into cardiac shock, they complain, they have fevers, their blood pressure goes spikes, they have all kind of crazy things.
Do you have the ones that have eyes that open and blink?
Oh yeah.
Oh
Oh yeah, we can do. They absolutely have phlebotomy. They have the real blood that comes out. You can put IVs in. If you do the IV wrong, it comes out. Our nurses, our students actually practice on each other for IVs. They practice on each other, and then when they get that right, so hear what I'm saying. They stick needles in each other, and if they do that right, they practice to mastery. Then they go in and demonstrate that skill by themselves. And why by yourself is kind of a weird thing, is because the by yourself part, you're in the student environment, clinical environment, you got a group of people, and then you go get hired, and your first day, you're by yourself. And they describe that as the loneliest day. I'm not a clinician, I'm not a nurse, and I'm not a doctor. I'm never going to be either of those things. But I can imagine you train all these things, you're in groups, and then one day you're by yourself with a patient. We put them in that situation long before they go into clinical, long before they get their first job. We want them to fail in a safe place. Just like the pilot, we want you to crash into a fake mountain. That way you don't crash into a real mountain someplace. It's probably a bad example because we had one of those recently, but we want you to experience what happens when an engine goes out in the fake airplane, so you know what happens if, God forbid, the engine ever goes out when you're in a real airplane. Same thing with our situation. Go in there. We had a young lady the first semester we ran the program, came into the suite, and she forgot her name. She walks in, she goes, "Hello, Mr. Flynn, my name is..." "I'll be right back." She walks out, gathers herself, comes back in, does the whole thing, does it perfectly. But it's a pressure situation. You're walking into a hospital room for the very first time, seeing what is a fake patient, but understand it's a very real to them because they practice those skills, and now they demonstrate their skills. And it's their life. I'll tell you one success story. Then any questions you have, interrupt me, but we had a student that worked at McDonald's for 7 years. She was 25 years old. She graduated this past spring. Worked at the same McDonald's for 7 years. They would never let her work more than 29 and a half hours in 1 week, and she never got a raise. They said the only way to get a raise is if you buy your own franchise, and we don't give health care, so we're not going to let you work 30 hours. She said, biggest day of my life is going to be when I walk in there in my nurse uniform and I hand them my notice. And I said, well, people give notice at McDonald's? I guess they do. I don't know, after 7 years. And she did. So she got a job making, I think she got a job at about $10.75 an hour, which she'd been making minimum wage her entire life. So 2 semesters changed her life. Her new employer offered her not only working up to 55 hours a week if she wanted to, also offered her 100% to come back to school and reimburse her for her education if she wants to come back and add those other certificates as well. So she's never had that before. You forget about the minimum wage being, it's a crazy low number, but how about limiting to only 30 hours? That means you have to have more than one job if you want to have a real whole paycheck. Now you have a job where it's in crazy demand. You can get work anywhere you want, and say, oh, by the way, would you like to work 6 days a week? Would you like to work 5 days a week, 4 days a week? Tell me the hours you like to work, and we're going to put you to work. It's a crazy profession. It's awesome, the demand that's out there. Transformative for these young people and old people. We have someone who's 45 in the program right now. It's a change of life. It's changed your pace. Any other questions? Sure, tax dollars hard at work. Anytime you're coming down I-95 in South Carolina and you're around exit 164, stop in. We're more than happy to show you where your tax dollars are going. This is my contact information right here. This is we use social media to post the jobs up, and most of our candidates, most of our graduates have 3 or 4 job offers before they leave. We have 100% placement, so they get to choose between the offers that they have. This is my email address. This is Twitter. You can follow me there. You might see a picture of my child in Boston. They joined me this weekend, so that's very nice. And other than that, thank you for your time.